All right, and now we are live. All right. Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome once again to the program, Meet the Press with me, Lovejoy Mtungwiza. On the program, we talk about anything and everything. We talk about a lot of stuff, right? We talk politics, we talk economics, we talk farming, we talk mining. Today on the program, we are talking food, and we want to know more about African traditional foods, if I can call them that. And we have invited Mr. Makhosi Mahlangu, who is a chef. I will let him introduce himself in a while, but as per tradition, let me start by thanking our health workers who have been helping us deal with the COVID-19. We know it's a global pandemic, and we have seen cases rising across the country. And we thank all the health workers who are doing a splendid job in making sure that everybody who has contracted the disease is well taken care of. We appreciate you, and we really, really, really want to thank you. So, back to the program. Welcome, Mr. Makhosi. Please introduce yourself. I don't want to spoil everything because I know I will leave out a lot. So please, this is your floor.
All right. Afternoon, everyone watching this. I know some people are already watching it from Europe. My name is Makhosi Mahlangu. I'm a foodie. First, I'll say I'm a foodie. I love food. And I'm a lecturer at Lupane State University, where I am teaching food science. So I'm also an author of a book, Our Food, Our Heritage, Our Future, which talks about indigenous food systems. So we are talking about indigenous food systems. We are talking about how our food is very, very important to us. We are talking a lot about what our grandparents used to eat. So that's the book aspect. So my history is about I've been heavily linked to food. First of all, I did food science at University of Zimbabwe. Then from there, I went and did animal science at Lupane University. Then I went to South Africa, Fort Hare, to do a master's in animal science. And then from there, I went and studied food science in Italy. So basically, I've gone through the food journey. I've learned a lot. South Africa, I've learned a lot in Zimbabwe. I've learned a lot in Italy. But where my love came, my love for food, it grew when I learned in Italy. Because in Italy, food is not just food. Food is a culture in Italians. So, for instance, when I was starting my food science in Italy, we went to a place, Modena, where they make balsamic vinegar. So the person who designs the bottle, who designs the bottles for the balsamic vinegar, is the guy who designs for Ferrari. So you can see that, so there's actually a great link. And when you're there, they actually show you trees, like tell you that Julius Caesar used to have olives at this particular place. So the whole point is about the history. It's about the futuristic view. So from that experience, I learned a lot. I realized that we haven't really documented our food. So you find that with our food, it's mostly consumed by people in the rural areas. And the fact that people in the rural areas are not, I wouldn't say they are confident in terms of the local language. But when we're talking about in terms of English, it's a whole different scenario. So you find that people in rural areas eat the organic food, they eat the best food, not lots of cooking oil, but no one is pushing that view that the rural food is the best food. you find that as for us urbanites, I say they're urbanites, right? People in town, they are ambassadors for foreign food. So you find that most people will start consuming things like foreign things like sushi. People start eating pasta. They move away from what they used to consume when they were in their rural areas, right? So the rural areas still remain like the custodians of African food. I would say African food heritage. So we have to boost the food systems in the rural areas. So we realize that in the rural areas, nothing is being done. They've got their food. They've got if you look at a comparison between the urban areas and the rural areas, we only eat two type of vegetables. I think it's cabbage and chomoli, just those two things, right? But if you go to rural areas, you find that they've got dried vegetables, they've got uh, lots of things that they can consume. In some areas, like I was in Pinga, they also consume baobab leaves. They also eat tamarind. So the rural area has got a lot of diversity. So you find that even when you look at the ZIMVAC report, we're trailing behind in terms of dietary diversity. So urban areas, you find that the type of meals that you can count, you won't pass 10 different meals that you ate throughout the whole year if you are in town. Considering pizza, deep fried chicken, rice, those are what we usually have. And if you go to rural areas, it's more diverse. They've got a lot of things. They've got a lot of fruits. You should look at an aspect of, especially the fruits. With the book that I wrote, we've got 39 different fruits that we've documented. So if you go to an ordinary supermarket, our top supermarkets, you hardly pass 10 fruits. Orange, apple, pineapple, you don't pass 10. But in the rural areas, we've got about 39 different fruits. And all those fruits have got different levels of vitamins, they've got different levels of water content, they've got different levels of antioxidants. So basically, what I can say is that the rural people are at a better stage than the urban folks. And you should also see one thing is that if you go to the rural areas, it's difficult to find a fat person, right? Fat people are only found in the cities, right? Because they eat unhealthy food, uh, food which is greasy, food uh, which has got high salt content. So that's the food we wanted to document. So when I went to Italy, there's a lot of organic food. They say it's organic. It is organic, but from my own view, I think Africa has got organic food. It's got the highest number of organic foods. Remember, we can't afford fertilizers, we can't afford antibiotics, and you find that most of the goats that are found in rural areas, they do not take supplements. They just live on nature. So that brings us very close to nature as compared to industrialized countries like in the developed areas where people are eating a lot of processed food. So we've got to an extent where we are not eating a lot of processed food due to us being more inclined to nature than in developed countries. So it's a bonus for us. And if you look at what's happening is that, as I said, urban areas and rural areas. Rural areas, people are eating what I call the natural food. You find that there's really it's really difficult getting hold of things like cooking oil. So most people just boil their meat, and it's so natural. So if you go to the best restaurants in the world, you find that most of their food doesn't have a lot of deep frying. It's more organic. It's more inclined to nature, and that's how our food has always been. It's always been unadulterated. It's pure food. It's just the best food you can get anyway. So looking at my experience when I was in Italy, I realized that when they talk about they have what they call products of geographic location. They've got traditional products. So there are products. For instance, if you look at champagne, champagne is made in France, so it's a region called Champagne. So they are the only ones who can make that specific wine or sparkling wine, and these are products that are there. So you find that even with our indigenous fruits, we need to start being confident. We need to start embracing it. We need to start being ambassadors of our own genetics. We need to start pushing the movement, being proud of who we are, and not just having. If you look at our food culture, specifically, let's say if you look in Harare, there are few places that sell our traditional foods, right? If you go to the old clubhouses, you find that the old menu when Cecil John Rose was still there is still there, where we have fish and chips, we have the boring British food, right? So our food is more diverse, it's more interesting, it's more uh, it's more healthy. So we need to push that. So the book that we wrote, I wrote it with a number of people. For instance, I wrote it with Ubabo Sanyati, who's a renowned historian. He's documented a lot of history, Zimbabwean history. I also worked with Delta Ambonisi Sivalo, who's also he's a foodie. He's my young brother. He's a foodie. He loves food. So I also worked with Sarah Savory. If you Google, you find that there's the Savory Institute in America, which advises the American government on food systems. So Sarah Savory, she knows everything about holistic management. So the holistic management system is the one where it's almost similar to what our grandfathers used to do. Then I also work with Roger Coyanet, who's in Italy, and he's a lecturer at University of Udine. He grew up in Zimbabwe, so he knows Italian food systems. He knows the Zimbabwean food systems. And one thing I can say is that when you compare our food system, the traditional food systems, no nation can beat us in terms of the food diversity we have. So if you look at even in South Africa, I don't think South Africa matches what we have. We are like a food gold mine. And then also in the book, I worked with a world-renowned chef, which is Chef Njati Kapui, who's from Kenya. So Chef Njati, you should realize that Kenya and Zimbabwe are similar countries. We're both colonized by the British. We've got the same boring menus, and as the traditional food systems, right, are almost similar. We have biltong, we have we've got the dried vegetables, right? So there's a book we're working on at the moment with Chef Njati on traditional vegetables, right? So it's really funny when you look at the traditional vegetables, you find that across Africa, our traditional vegetables are almost similar, right? We have, I know we can say mriwo is umbita is now, I think, our favorite, but that was an imported foodstuff. So we have to look at the traditional vegetables. So you find that there's a similarity that's there between the vegetables that are consumed across Africa, and you find that our staple starch is soca, not maize. So soca, yes.
Okay,
So
I can see the lecturer is coming out. Talk and talk.
Okay.
But anyways, so let's come back to the kind of work that you do. You're a chef. You're focusing more on traditional foods. I want to talk about differences in Zimbabwean traditional foods. Before we came live, we were talking about the politics of food, right? You've got the Matebele, they've got their type of food that they perceive to be their traditional, and then you come to the Mashona region, they also have their type of food. And you, in one of your, can I say, your teachings or in the book, you talk about the Ndebele way of cooking. Please let us know this about this. What is it that you're focusing on? Are you segregating food? Are you saying this is the Shona food, this is the Ndebele food?
No, first of all, you should know who are Ndebele people, right? And Ndebele is a mixture of tribes, right? So you find that amongst the Ndebeles, Shona people are also there, right? It's just a mix of tribes. So you have the Kalangas, you have the Vendas, you have the Nambias, you have the Tongas, but we were all united by just a common language, right? So if you find out the dishes, right, that are there, if you look at, especially in the book, we have, the intestines that are tied, the goat intestines, makuru, which are right. That's yeah, those ones, right? That's not a Ndebele dish, but Ndebeles love it, right? It's a Shona dish, right? So if you look at Inobi also comes from the Venda people, right? So food is all about evolution. It's got no tribe, it's got no face, it's got nothing. It's just an evolution which needs confidence. So it's not about politicizing it. So you realize that in the book that we have, we can also have one like the Shona version, right? But we'll just be changing the names because most of the dishes are there in Shona, right? Okay. Except I think the mice. Yeah, those ones. We do not have them, right? So you realize also that if you learn the history about Mziligas, he went through Botswana, right? On his way here. So you realize that there's some dishes that we eat which we took from the Tswanas, right? There's some dishes that we took from the Kalamas. There's peanut butter that we borrowed from somewhere. So it's more of an evolution of food. And then you realize that as Ndebele people, the Ndebele people, they never used to eat fish.
Okay, but, interesting.
Yeah. So when they got to, I always believe when they got to Binga, that's when they started staying with the Tonga people, and that's when we started eating fish. So the whole thing is it's evolution. I can put it in that aspect, that it's food is about evolving. It's about a future which has got a foundation. So to put it on, to say no, this type of meal belongs to this type of people wouldn't be right, because you might find that the way that we love pizza, it might be a traditional food in the near future, but that's not what our grandparents used to eat, right? So we embrace good things, right? We embrace really good food. So you also find that in terms of our food is expensive. That's why we don't really find a lot of restaurants offering our food. But that's the food that's there in most rural areas, right? So the whole thing is to try and develop a food system that will work for Africa, because we are all united by melanin. We shouldn't run away from that, right? And yeah, and we are all brothers. We are all under one continent. So as soon as we realize that, right, we know we'll be pushing a movement that's in the right direction, right? So if we cannot control our own food, we are going nowhere, right? We can't be ambassadors of foreign food. We can't do that. And we also need diversity in our food. We need to evolve in our food. You realize that at the moment, as the people of melanin, right, we are moving towards a system where we are becoming coconuts. I can put it that way. We are becoming coconuts. We are becoming people who are ambassadors of foreign languages, who are becoming ambassadors of foreign food, who are becoming ambassadors of even foreign clothing, or ambassadors of foreign soccer. You find that nowadays, if you look at your phone, it's hard to find a Dynamo supporter in your phone, but there are groups, Manchester United groups, that you can find. So that whole thing is like a big challenge for Africa, the identity. I remember how we used to laugh at people with a strong rural background. We'd laugh at them, yeah, right? That this one is backward. We would say he's backward, right? But actually, they are very, very clever, more than us. So we have to have confidence in our own systems, right? We have to embrace a lot of things. Even I think when you're growing up, Lovejoy, you used to play the indigenous games, right? How many people have you seen now playing indigenous games?
People are more focused on PlayStation now.
PlayStation and PlayStation, right? For instance, my friend yesterday, I called him, and he's like, no, I'm playing soccer. I'm like, where did you buy the ball? He's like, no, on PlayStation. So that's how our society has moved, and generally we should know, we should have a vision where we're going, right? In terms of the development of our society, right? So food plays a really critical role in that. It gives us an identity.
Okay.
That's the whole view. Yeah.
All right. We look at the type of food that you're advocating for. There's been a different approach being taken, especially by our government, towards drought-resistant crops. You know, because of the climate change, we can't continue to grow our normal maize, etc., etc. But is the message reaching out to the people, to the farmers themselves, that we need to shift the focus from our traditional white maize let's say munga, sorghum millet, and rapoko. We now need to have more dried vegetables, more dried can I say sweet potatoes, right? Is the message getting to the farmers? Is it getting to the people in the rural areas? Is it getting to urbanites? Because I know the urbanites are the ones who are more problematic. I, for one, I love traditional food. I love that brown salsa, that brown rice. I love those. But then the people around me, they might not want to eat it because of one or two reasons. So are you as a chef encouraging the farmers, the consumers of these products to at least embrace them?
It's quite a difficult thing, considering that the indigenous food, right, has never been really marketed a lot, right? So even in other countries, it's not being marketed. So you realize that our farmers are mostly into the cash crops, right? So you find that they'll concentrate on maize, they'll concentrate on what we call, I call them the white crops, right? Remember, I mentioned earlier that we all want to be white. We might hide the fact, but we all try and run away from our melanin and try and be white, right? So you find that even with the munga, right, the satsare munga, right, most people would not like it because it's got a darker color. Not because of the taste, but because it's got a darker color, right? And it's really difficult to get the marketing right? So we really need ambassadors who push that front, where we have restaurants, right, pushing traditional food, right? We have even our soccer players, right, having maybe, let's say, Dynamo says a t-shirt being sponsored by a local food company, right, which is not pushing the foreign vision, right, but pushing the local vision, right? So you find that we're lacking in so many things. First of all, even with the book, there were a few books that have really documented our traditional food, right? So the whole market, we have to create the market. We have to be confident in ourselves. We have to do a lot of stuff, a lot of groundwork. We need to get the universities. Remember, universities also play a critical role. If you look at universities, people do not study traditional food. Mostly they study the foreign food. So you find that people are studying things like vanilla ice cream, right? I've never seen anyone studying maybe lacto, right? We don't have even a vanilla tree, but people are studying those type of things, which are not linked to us in any aspect, right? We are just, I do not know what we'll be doing. So in the universities play a critical role. For instance, if you come to Lowe in some areas, we've got a problem with this is a non-food related thing. We've got a problem with mosquitoes, right? But we've got a university of technology, right? And that can't be solved. Imagine people doing chemical engineering, but they'll go and study something like maybe marine technology when we don't have a sea. You see, so it's we have to be relevant. We have to do things that we see, things that are on the ground. So the universities, the technical. If you go to maybe to Harare Polytech, right, you find them learning Norwegian food, right? There's no Zimbabwean food, so it's a really strange thing that these institutes of higher learning are not teaching what most of the people are eating. You look at, I know these days we eat a lot of chomolia, we eat a lot of rape, but how many universities have studied what we eat every day? So I think we are not realistic. We need to start being realistic. We need to start having our own markets. You realize that for the traditional foods, our markets, I think in Harare, you find that the markets that are there in Mbare, and how often do I would say the coconuts, how often do they go to the Mbare market? You know, people do not like going to Mbare because there's a lot of bad being said about Mbare. The people coming out from Mbare, but that's where we have our traditional market. So it's the same thing as in Bulawayo. Bulawayo, you find that our markets are located in the old locations, right? Like here we have it in Makhosi. In Harare, I know it's there in Mbare. For the other cities, I do not know where I've never really looked at it. So you find that our own food is being shunned by us, which includes the food markets, which include just the advertising of the food, which includes even an advert. When have you ever seen an advert of even mbambayela, sweet potato? You never see it, but we'll see adverts of potatoes, right? So I think for the market, we need to really sit down and really try and create it. We need to start having confidence in ourselves. And if you realize in most countries that developed their own systems, they had to cut off a lot of things, especially outside influence of their own systems. So you need to cut out everything from and start having confidence in your own system. So until we get to that stage, it's really difficult to say farmers will make money from our indigenous foods, right? So even if you look at Mopani worms, that's a really big business. But till now, we don't even have a company that's really big in terms of marketing, in terms of developing the Mopani worm. You find that even for the Mopani worm, it's not just the Mopani worm. When I was in Pinga, there's tamarind. Tamarind, you find that at school, just go to a preschool, people are not drawing tamarind. You find someone drawing something that doesn't exist in our society. You find someone maybe in Pinga being asked to draw an apple when they've never even tasted an apple. So we need to start being realistic and start drawing what we have in front of us. So you find that especially the apple, let's say we look at the apple, you find that in countries which develop the apple, you have artists who've drawn the apple, you've got a whole industry that's based on an app. So we also need to get to that point where if you Google Mopane one, you're supposed to know that there are drawings that are there that show a Mopane worm, or you can have a tree which shows the which illustrates the community, what the community has, right? So we have so many trees that are there, even mni, right? Have you ever seen a drawing of mni, right? But if you were to Google like an orange tree, you find drawings of orange tree, but we do not have a drawing of mni. So it's really sad the stage where we are. That we haven't really started developing ourselves. So that's the whole marketing is.
Okay. I'll talk about and I'll pose a question to you because from what you're saying, right? Of course, local problems require local solutions. That's true.
Yes.
But we look at the education setup that we have in Zimbabwe. It's a bit Eurocentric, right? It's taking
Exactly.
it's copies from Europe, and for us now to say, guys, let's focus more on Amakibi, right? Let's focus more
Yes.
on let's focus more on me, like you're saying.
Yes.
Whereas when one graduates from school, they are not faced with in the knee part of it. When they graduate from school, everything that they're going to be working, or the environment that they're going to be working in, is not really Afrocentric. It's Eurocentric. So it
Exactly.
doesn't
Yes.
create a conflict. Or what needs to be done? We need to localize our industries, or maybe we can keep on working towards the Eurocentric view.
You should understand when Bob Marley talks about it, that emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds, right? So it's all about a mind game, right? So the whole thing, we need to start having confidence in ourselves, right? And you find that with the institutes that came, all the institutes that came, the universities, even from kindergarten, it's all Eurocentric, right? So what we're saying is, why don't we create something that's our thing, right? But to create that thing, first of all, you need to emancipate yourself from mental slavery. So if you do not emancipate yourself from mental slavery, right, we are not going anywhere, right? So with food is really, really, really important, because I do not think you can clear all the rural areas and put apple trees. We've got our own indigenous trees, right? So why don't we work from that angle, and we start to develop a functional system. So you realize, for instance, I'm a lecturer, right? And if I am supervising your thesis, if you come with anything that's related to Apple or anything, right, I do not supervise you, right? I only supervise people who will do something that's realistic, like Mopane Worms, right? If someone says, no, I want to draw a logo for a Mopane Worm company or value addition of Mopane Worms, right? Now we are talking, right? But if you come to me and say, I want to do sushi, I just tell you, no, just go somewhere else, right?
Yes,
So it's, yeah. Yeah. So that's the whole point. The institute. So there are few people really doing it. Remember when you get like we go through a stage, we pass O level, right? And then from O level you go to A level, from A level you go to university, and in all those aspects, you always want to try and be the white person. You start drinking wine. How do you drink wine? Right?
you want people
And then
to. Yeah.
no, they should drink the traditional stuff, right?
Ingwe.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, and one thing you should realize, Lovejoy, is that if you look at even Ingwebo or Chibuk, right? Those companies have just literally stopped there. So we need to develop products beyond that level. We need to have new products coming in. We need to, Maheu is a big product. At first, it never used to be there in the supermarket, but people used to love it. And then a few companies realized that, and then they started developing it. But if you look at in the book that I have, we've got a section on beverages, right? So in the beverages, there are so many beverages that are there. There are beverages that you make from, we used to amarula, the
Okay.
amarula tree, right? There's a beverage called umkumbi,
Okay.
which is consumed mainly by the Sutu. We've got Sutu people in Bay Bridge, right? So they drink a lot of mkumbi. So you find that during when there's a large, if the tree produces a lot, like if you harvest a lot, the sales from the bottle store go down
Okay.
because people make their own stuff. Yeah. So all those things are things that were there, and we've never really commercialized it. So you find that companies like Distill in South Africa, right? The one which is in charge of Amarula, they make a killing from our own indigenous knowledge systems. All right. So there's so many products that are there, but we've never really had confident individuals who are pushing the food, because all we want to do is become ambassadors of foreign um, foreign culture, or ambassadors of foreign culture.
All right. Let me. You mentioned something about value addition, and
Yes,
it's something that is really lacking, I think, everywhere in everything that we're doing. So, how do
yes.
we add value to our traditional foods, our traditional fruits? We're talking about me. I love matsimbi, by the way. I love
Yeah.
matsimbi. How do we add value to such things? Looking at the state of our industries, looking at the state of our economy.
Yeah. You should understand one thing I've looked at in terms of our industry. Our industry was really big, very very big
Mm.
companies, right? But I think we should move away from having big industries and to have
Okay.
small family-run businesses, right? So I think it's imperative that all families have a business. In
Mm.
Africa, we're the only continent that doesn't have family businesses. It's difficult to open a business with your brother because you think you roya you or something, right? Or you take your wife. There are so many things that are involved, right? So we haven't got to a stage where we can start our own small business units, right? So the whole point is trust. You can't start a business with a friend. How do you trust that friend? Instead of your brother who you shared a bed with for like maybe 20 years or so, and you really trust your brother, and you can start a business from there. So those are just the basics, that the business should start from the family. And then after that, there are certain things. Imagine if you start a business with your family, that means your village, you've got an advantage. And imagine opening a factory in your village. Uh, you won't have a lot of hiccups as compared to just approaching someone in Harare
Yeah.
who you don't know, who look at you and say, "Ha, I don't like Lovejoy. The way his shirt is wearing a menu shirt," and then say, "No, I can't give you this license," right? But if it's in your village, you can start a business easily, and then from there you work on the quality aspect, you work on the marketing, because quality and marketing are really really important. So in terms of quality, you find that our traditional food have still not reached that quality aspect. The quality aspect, we still not reached that quality aspect. So if we get the
All right.
quality right, yeah, we get the quality right, and quality talks about a lot of things, right? It talks about the health aspect, it talks about the packaging, it talks about the shelf life, it talks about the history. For instance, if you look at the rooibos, if some rooibos teas, they tell you to drink 8 cups of rooibos to be healthy. What they're simply saying is that drink a lot of rooibos so that you spend a lot of money in their company. There's nothing to do with health, right? right?
Okay.
So yeah, so that's where we're supposed to get to. Developing our own food systems, which we can market well and we can push well.
All right.
So yeah.
Okay. Talking about because we are now running out of time. Talking about food
Yes.
marketing. Back in the village or back in the days, there used to be a time that I would go to the villages and I would see my gogo going to
Yes.
what they would call food. Can I say food expo?
Yes.
There was a name for it. So I think with time, those have also gone. And
Yes.
I see you guys are also doing something called, is it Amagugu or something like that?
Yes.
Amagugu Food Expo.
Yes.
Let us know what it's all about.
Okay. So I'm also part of the organizers for the Amakuku Food Festival. We're supposed to have it this year, but unfortunately we had the COVID pandemic, right? So if you do look at it, right, that festival we usually have it in a village, right? We we don't have it in town. We have it in a village which is outside in Matopos, right? So when I came back, Amakuku Food Festival, I think it had an attendance of about 100 people in per the session, like per the week when it was held. So when I got back, using all I'd learned outside, we managed to get about 400 people driving. And remember that, there was no fuel, but we got 400 people there. So it was all traditional food. We didn't want any deep fried chicken. We wanted nkukumakaya. So all the road runner, right? Which is flavorsome, right? So the Amakuku festival, the people who cook there are the women from the village. So it's almost like creating it's creating a system where the women are empowered, and then they get to sell their food, and they get to do so many things. And we also have people selling artifacts, and we have people also selling traditional medicine.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's more in line with developing the villages. So that's the Amakuku festival. So we're also going to have another festival in Victoria Falls on traditional beer. On traditional beer, we're going to have it's the first one. I think it's the first in Africa. Traditional beer festival, right? So we're going to call the posh people, the coconuts, and then we just come and we enjoy. Right?
I hope they
so
take.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So I'm working with a number of chefs who are actually working on cocktails, trying to get Masese cocktails, trying to work on something that's really new, and which hasn't been done. So those are the type of things I work with, people who think outside the box.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's even the marinated meat will be marinated using amasese. So new concepts, new ideas, right? And then we see if we can develop something new.
It's one festival that I really love to be there. Not because I love Amasete. I've never tested Amasete, but I think for the sake of me learning, I would really love to be there and just seeing how it will all go about. All right. Maybe lastly, we want to know a little bit about the book. Yes, you talked about it in brief. Maybe just let us know why you chose to come up with this book at such a time. And where we can find the book, what's in the book that we can look forward to. And also, as a chef, I know every chef has got a signature meal. Do you have
Yes.
yours that you say, this is my signature meal? We're not saying share with us how it's made, but maybe one meal that you can say, this is my signature meal.
Okay. First of all, I'll start with the signature meal, right? There's dumplings.
Okay.
They're called amakabelengwane, right? Amakabelengwane. So it's like steamed bread. It's traditional steamed bread, right? So that one, traditional steamed bread with kukumakaya and with rosemary, right? That's like that's like the perfect one. And with cottage cheese, right? We should know that we've got a really good cheese, cottage cheese, which is amas
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So if you go to posh places, right, they say, could we have cottage cheese, right? So if that's like my signature dish, amakabelengwane, a layer of cottage cheese and shredded kukumakai, which has been boiled in rosemary, and then you just have that, and then you just taste the awesomeness, right? So coming back to the book has got 14 chapters. 14 chapters, which are different foodstuffs. So the first introduction, the preface is done by Chef Njati Kapu, who's the international chef from Kenya. And then we've got 2 chapters which document the history of the Ndebele people, how they got some of the dishes, how they traveled, all those typologies. And then we also have from chapter 3 up to chapter 12, where we discuss the different foodstuffs. So from chapter 3, we've got meat. Chapter 4, we've got sorghum, where we specifically look at sorghum dishes. And then chapter 5 is the beverages. Chapter 6 is maize. Chapter 7 is milk. Milk was very important long ago, and we need to really see the importance of milk. Then chapter 8 is the relishes, just general relishes. And then we have chapter 9, which is just other food stuff that we consume, like things like honey. And then we have chapter 10, we have what we call izadenda, right, which are underground tubers. Remember, before the potatoes, we also had our own tubers. So these tubers, we usually get them during the rainy season, right? And then we have chapter 11 with 39 fruits. And then we have chapter 12 with the basic processing of food. We have chapter 13, which is a comparison between Italian food and Zimbabwean food. And then we have chapter 14, which is the future of African food systems. So that's the book. So the book currently it's available here in Bulawayo, but I was supposed to have a book launch in Harare, so that we get it into Harare. So we're working on the launch, which will be held in Harare. So currently, you can get a copy here in Bulawayo at Bulawayo Public Library and at the art gallery. So that's where that's where you find the book. Yeah.
All right. Lastly, besides African foods, do you also
Yes.
maybe deal with indigenous and exotic? Do you mix the two?
Yes. Remember, just now I was telling you about Ikobelengwane with rosemary.
Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah. So we really do borrow a couple of things from. There are really nice things that are there that are European, especially mayonnaise. I love mayonnaise.
Okay.
So I would mix imagine chicken mayo using an indigenous chicken. That would be awesome. The flavor from the chicken, the flavor from the mayonnaise. So there are a lot of things that we are borrowing from the foreign cultures, right? There are also dishes like samp. Samp.
Yes.
If you go to the Eastern Cape, right? In the Eastern Cape, I've stayed in the Eastern Cape. They've got the best samp in the world. If you get there, ask for ngqosho. They've got the best. It's literally awesome, right? So that's the dish. Remember, our samp was really boring. It was just white and soup. Yeah, it wasn't nice at all. So we've managed to revamp it just by stealing a couple of ideas from the Xhosa people and fixing a new type of samp. So it's more of borrowing from some people and then using it, right? So you also find that long ago we used to drink fermented milk, right? We used to drink a lot of fermented milk, not lacto when it gets to the stage of lacto, but in between, right? So if you go to high-end supermarkets like Woolworths, you find that there's fermented milk. So what we'll do is we'll borrow and then we'll take some flavors and put it into our milk. So it's more of science. It's like the future of traditional food.
Okay, I was going to ask you to give us your thoughts on the future of African food.
Yes.
Maybe you can explain from what you just said it.
Okay, so if you look at the chapter on the future of African food, that's in my book. It was written by Sarah Savory from the Savory Institute, right? So they are using a method which is called holistic management, where you use nature to create sustainable food systems, right? So the future food system, the future African food system won't be based on the supermarket. It will be based on the nature. It will be based on nature. Yeah. So we need to embrace nature. We need to respect nature. We need to deal with the plastic pandemic that we have at the moment. So that's the future of our traditional food systems. That we are embracing nature. We're respecting nature. We are working towards a harmonic system which will improve our food systems. We need to get to a level where everyone can eat something, everyone can eat organic food, everyone can eat food that does not have fertilizers, and we want to also create food miles. We have things like food miles where you're not supposed to buy food outside 150 kilometers of your radius. So those are some of the future food systems that we are looking at.
Interesting. I think because of time, we would have wanted to do longer here, and the good thing is, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite another chef who specifically deals with the European dishes, and then we have you back. You talk about the African dishes, and then we can do a comparison of where we are coming from, where we are going, and why we have those two competing. I think that would be a very good debate, and I'm looking forward to doing that in the coming weeks. But all the same, thank you so much for gracing the program. We really appreciate. That is
thank you so much.
He was talking about the future of African food, the traditional foods, why we abandoned the foods, and why we should also continue to embrace it, because this is the future, right? He was also talking about how we can add value to our traditional foods, and also he mentioned something about having small family businesses, so that at least we can manage, micromanage everything that we have. My brother Makhosi, thank you so much. coming to the program once again.
Thank you,
And stay safe.
thank you so much to the viewers. Yes.
All right. Yeah, we want to invite you back. So please stay as safe as possible. And remember to put on your mask like everybody else. And, wash your hands whenever you can.
Yes, and eat traditional food.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
How can people get in touch with you before you go?
Should I give them my phone number or my email address?
I think your phone number, and then yes.
Okay, so my phone number is 0782 452 127. I'll repeat that. 0782 452 127. Thank you so much.
All right. So that's the number to get in touch with Makhosi, and you can learn a thing or two. And you can also buy his book, which he said is available at Blawayo Library. Is that so?
Yes.
Blawayo Public Library.
Yes. And the Art Gallery.
So get
Blawayo Art Gallery.
Yes.
Okay.
Get in touch with him. Get a copy of how you can make the most out of your traditional foods. That being the program, Meet the Press with Lovejoy, and I would love to thank you all who are tuning in. Join me in other programs as we continue to talk about anything and everything from everywhere. Goodbye for now.